mystery finally being solved. After over a year of searches and lost hopes, debris from Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 finally surfaced on the coast of Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean.
We now have physical evidence that flight MH370 tragically ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
A piece of airplane wing, chair cushions, and window fragments. That is all that's left of the Boeing 777 that disappeared off the radar on March 8th of last year as it was traveling from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 people on board. The debris is being analyzed by French and Malaysian experts in Toulouse. For the families of the passengers, the discovery brought pain but also anger. They are accusing Malaysian authorities of sabotaging the investigation from the very beginning. Teams of experts are now looking for remaining pieces of the plane near Reunion Island. Will the world finally find out what happened to flight MH370? Our focus this week is on Malaysia. Welcome to our focus on Malaysia, where authorities are now hoping that the debris can tell them something more about the plane's last moments before it descended into the Indian Ocean more than 1 year ago. In the meanwhile, tensions between Malaysia Airlines and the families of the passengers are rising. Our first guest for today represents some of them, Mr. William Angeli, an aviation lawyer from Dallas, Texas, and a former Navy pilot. Hello, sir.
Hello.
So tell us, what are the potential legal implications of the latest findings?
Well, once they have found, what we've got is an international plane crash, and it's going to be governed by the convention of, the Montreal Convention. My understanding is Malaysia has offered some of the families some comfort money, $5,000 to $7,000 US. Ultimately, depending on what is found in the investigation, the airline will be responsible for paying these families their full damages, and possibly even the manufacturer as well.
And the Malaysian government and Air Force were harshly criticized in the very beginning for the way they handled this investigation. What should be their concern now? Is there really someone to blame?
There's really not. For the investigation, it was a difficult investigation. It's, the area where we think the plane went down is, as everyone has heard about, as remote a place on Earth as you can find.
Yeah.
And it's very deep. And, even now that we know that the plane has crashed, actually finding the wreckage is still going to be a terribly difficult task.
In what way can you actually help your clients, the relatives of the missing passengers, when the mystery hasn't been resolved yet?
Yes, one of the most difficult things about this entire crash, this entire incident, has been the fact that the families have not had closure. They've not yet come to final terms with what happened to their family members. Again, finding this piece of wreckage, I think, might help some of these families come to terms with the fact that their loved ones aboard this plane are no longer with us. And it's a difficult process. It's a difficult step. I think many of the families so far, and even still in the face of these new findings, have been reluctant to accept that, and that is one of the things that that we have to do on our side too, is to help kind of walk the families through the realities of what the evidence is showing us.
Mr. William Angeli, thank you so much for shedding this light for us.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Malaysia Today is a popular Malaysian news blog celebrating its 10th anniversary. It is known for being critical of both the governing coalition and opposition parties. Its founder and chief editor is Petra Kamaruddin, a former political detainee. In 2008, it was arrested after his website was blocked by the Malaysian government, and 2 years later, the government stripped Petra of his citizenship on the grounds that his activities could affect the peace of the country. And he's now joining us from where he currently resides, Manchester. Hello.
Hi, good morning, or good afternoon now.
Yeah. What is the main message that you're hoping to deliver to your readers?
Initially, our message was we need a two-party system, a very strong opposition that can keep the ruling party in check. Now the ruling party is quite, the opposition party is quite strong, and it is giving the ruling parties, a run for its money. But we find that the opposition is now turning as bad as the ruling party. So what I always said was, what we do not want is old wine in a new bottle. Just having old wine in a new bottle doesn't serve anyone's interest. So we need a third force, so that in the event the opposition does take over the federal government, or even the opposition does not take over the federal government but becomes a very strong opposition, the third force has to keep both the political parties on both sides of the political divide, have to keep them in check. So that's my message. We do not want to just change the government, we want to change to a better government.
And Petra, are stories like yours common in Malaysia? Tell us a bit about the censorship issue in the media there. Is it difficult to be a journalist?
Well, I'm a blogger. I'm not a journalist, and I don't claim to be one. But we have very strict publishing laws, and a lot of the publications, newspapers and stuff like that, they practice what we call self-censorship. So they know what they can and cannot do, and they try to keep within the law. But we as bloggers, we rarely, we push the envelope. We try to see how far we can cross the boundary and still stay free. Unfortunately, I've crossed that boundary too many times, and I've been arrested, 4 or 5 times, over the last, 11 years or so. And that's why I have to live in Manchester and not in Kuala Lumpur.
And I want to ask you about a latest political development, because Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak is involved in an alleged corruption scandal, trying to explain $670 million donation that was deposited into his private bank account. In your opinion, what could be the implication of this?
Well, that's certainly being used against him by those who want him ousted. But this is quite common, Now Najib is already 6 years, so they're trying to oust him. So it looks like the history of Malaysia is every 6 years we try to kick out the Prime Minister. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't. Now this issue about corruption, which is a donation that was given to the Prime Minister and put into his personal bank account, that has been the practice for more than 30 years. This has always been the practice. Many people benefit from this practice, but today it seems to be an issue, and the people raising an issue are the people who have benefited from this money.
Petra, Kamaruddin, thank you so much for this interview and for sharing us all your insights.
Thank you.
And now, what else is going on in Malaysia?
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is raising concerns about freedom of expression in Malaysia. Kerry spoke with the Malaysian Prime Minister last week about the imprisonment of former Malaysian opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim. Civil society groups have claimed that the government is suppressing its critics, which include Ibrahim. The Malaysian ringgit weakened past 3.9 per dollar for the first time in nearly 17 years. Local shares and government bond prices fell as concerns continued to grow over a corruption scandal embroiling the Prime Minister. The ringgit slid to 3.9, its weakest since September 2nd, 1998. Illegal wildlife traders are becoming more daring, attempting to sell their products online. A Facebook account, which has since been shut down, has posted photos of protected animals, such as clouded leopards, sun bears, and owls. Some commented on the Facebook wall that they wanted to keep these animals as pets, and some just blatantly said they wanted them for their meat. E-cigarettes must be regulated in the similar fashion to tobacco because its liquids still contain nicotine through fewer toxic chemicals, according to the Malaysian Medical Association. They say the vapor produced has fewer toxic chemicals than cigarette smoke, but the nicotine remains. They want the government to take measures to prevent young people from taking up an e-cigarette habit. For the first time ever, Kuala Lumpur is hosting a motor racing event. It was held last week, and the inaugural KL City Grand Prix comprised a few races. While the GT Cup race was the main event, races included the Lamborghini Super Asia Series, the Australian Supercars Series, as well as the sleek single-seaters Formula Masters China Series.
5 years years ago, officials in Georgetown, a city on the island of Penang, thought it would be a fine idea to hold an arts festival to mark its listing as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The month-long celebration of arts presents over 100 traditional and contemporary events, and the festival director is Mr. Joe Sidek, and he's now joining us from Penang. Hello, thank you.
Hi.
So what is special about the festival this year? What can we see there?
Every year we have 5 weeks to celebrate Georgetown Festival. And this year I think the strong point is very community driven. It has what I would like to think a very human touch to the whole festival.
And how is the spirit of Georgetown itself represented and reflected through the festival?
Well, Georgetown makes a really great canvas for the festival. Every street you go to, there's something old, something traditional, something really abstractly really nice. Walls, doors, windows, colors, you know, living trades. So Georgetown itself makes one of the best canvas for any festival. It's a yearly thing, you know. And then what I do is I just put events in and outside in specific areas.
And why was Georgetown chosen to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site?
I think they used the term outstanding universal values as one of the key factors that why Georgetown got the UNESCO award. It actually is something to do with our living trades, which is all the living craftsmen and trades. Universal religion practice everywhere. We have Muslims, Christians, Indians. We also have a lot of the, historically, it's like a blending and melting pot of cultures. We had the Armenians, we had the Bugis, we had the Indonesians from all parts, the Sumatrans, we have the Chinese, we have the Arabs. So since 1700, we've been a melting pot, and a lot of it's still around. A lot of it's still very intact.
Thank you so much for this interview, sir, and we hope that you're going to have an incredible artistic month.
Thank you.
According to the Statistics Department in Malaysia, around 35 to 40% of the population in the country are single, unmarried, divorced, or widowed. Recently, there seemed to be a rising trend among this sector: halal dating and matchmaking services. The speed dating platform offers Muslim singles a chance to get to know one another and maybe find life partners in the name of the Almighty. And with us is the co-founder of this initiative, Mr. Zuriui. Hello, thank you for being with us.
Hi, Tal.
So,
thank you for having me.
Tell us, what does a single Muslim who takes part in your sessions expect to find in a partner?
Okay, I think the most important thing that they have in mind is a candidate that has a certain level of piety, or at least the desire to achieve knowledge and practicing in their religion.
And what makes halal dating different than other matchmaking services?
The most important characteristic about halal speed dating is it's a chaperone, and it's an identified environment type of matchmaking, because especially the women candidate, they need to be chaperoned by their guardian, their father or mother, or their family members, which makes it safe, makes it faster, more efficient as well, for them to decide on the candidates.
Mm-hmm. And Zuriya, I wanted to ask you this: is there a certain conflict between the traditional Islam and this modern speed dating?
Well, as long as it complies with the Sharia rules and etiquettes, such as it has to be chaperoned. Man and woman cannot be alone together without, without being chaperoned by their family member. There are a few other things that we need to be mindful of when men and women are interacting, especially when it comes to looking for a marriage candidate. So as long as we look after our interactions between the gender, that should be, we're on the safe line.
And can you maybe share with us some of the success stories of halal dating?
Okay, it's still a bit too soon. It's still a bit too soon for people to get married, because it's just been quite recent that we had the event. But the numbers that I can give you would be 80 people came to the event, 80 candidates, and out of that 80, there were 14 matches. So these 14 people are currently talking to each other further about marriage with their candidates and their families.
14 lucky and happy people, you should say. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for watching us today and focusing on Malaysia with us. Next week, be sure to catch us again because another very interesting country is coming up.